faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. But here's what you don't know. Those iconic Superman cartoons from 1941 were the most expensive cartoons ever made. They literally changed Superman's powers forever, and the studio that made them sabotaged their own deal to avoid the project. Today I'm revealing 10 wild facts that'll change how you see the Man of Steel. Up in the sky. Look.
Up in the sky! Look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
Number 10. The Fleischers tried to kill their own deal. Paramount Pictures shows up with the rights to Superman. Fresh off the character's explosive comic book success, brothers Max and Dave Fleischer, already stressed, just finished Gulliver's Travels. Deep into their second feature, Mr. Bug Goes to Town. The last thing they wanted was another massive project. So Dave Fleischer does something brilliant. He quotes Paramount an absolutely outrageous budget designed to kill the deal completely. $100,000 per cartoon. That's 4 times the average cartoon cost, 6 times their typical Popeye shorts. The goal? Make it so expensive Paramount would walk away. Here's what happened instead. Paramount called their bluff, negotiated down to $50,000 for the first cartoon and $30,000 for each subsequent short. The Fleischers were locked in. The sabotage became a commitment. The budget remained absolutely massive, twice the cost of an average Fleischer production. Still the most expensive animated shorts in American history up to that point. Truth and Justice. Number 9. A bodybuilder became Superman's secret body. The Fleischers relied heavily on rotoscoping, the technique Max Fleischer himself invented back in 1915. Here's how it worked. Live-action footage projected onto glass panels. Animators traced over movements frame by frame to create lifelike motion. For Superman's realistic movements, they needed a physical model who could move like the Man of Steel. Enter Carol Krauser, a muscle man specifically hired to be Superman's rotoscope body double. Krauser performed the walking, running, and physical actions that animators would trace. But here's the limitation. Many of Superman's actions couldn't be rotoscoped at all. Flying, lifting massive objects, punching through walls, none of that existed in real life to trace. Lead animators had to hand-draw those sequences from scratch. The challenge? Most lead animators at Fleischer weren't trained in realistic figure drawing. They were used to cartoony, exaggerated characters like Popeye and Betty Boop. The solution was remarkable. Assistant animators, trained in figure drawing but inexperienced with animation, were tasked with keeping Superman perfectly on model during action sequences. It was an inverted workflow that somehow produced stunning results, possessing remarkable physical strength. Number 8. The Fleischers gave Superman his most iconic power. When production began, Superman could only leap great distances in the comics. That's where able to leap tall buildings in a single bound came from. The Fleischers animated Superman leaping across the city exactly as depicted. Then they watched the footage. It looked absolutely ridiculous. Superman hopping around like a superpowered kangaroo didn't translate well to fluid animation. The Fleischers made a bold decision. They contacted Action Comics and asked for permission to change Superman's power set. Could he fly instead of leap? DC agreed. Flight made its animated debut in these cartoons and became immediately iconic. The radio series had already introduced flight earlier that year, but the animated shorts made it visually canonical. By 1943, the comics officially adopted flight as Superman's power, replacing the awkward leaping entirely. A decision made purely for animation quality became permanent Superman mythology, disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent. Number 7. It cost more than most feature films. Let's put those production budgets in perspective. The first Superman short cost $50,000 in 1941. That's equivalent to over $720,000 today. Each subsequent cartoon cost $30,000, equivalent to over $430,000 today. The total budget for all 17 shorts reached $530,000, equivalent to over $7.6 million in today's money. What did that money buy? Character shadows requiring meticulous attention to detail, elaborate special effects animation never attempted before, detailed animation layouts with depth and perspective, A team of skilled animators working 6 months on the first cartoon alone. 40 buckets of different colored paints for cells and backgrounds. Extensive rotoscoping combined with hand-drawn animation. These weren't just cartoons. They were animated spectacles designed to compete with feature films. The investment showed. Every frame looked expensive because it was expensive. Number 6. The first cartoon invented iconic Superman traditions. September 26, 1941. The very first short introduced elements that became permanent Superman canon. This cartoon featured the first time Clark Kent winked at the audience, breaking the fourth wall to acknowledge their shared secret. That wink became a recurring feature throughout the series and was later adopted into the comic books. The phone booth transformation originated here. While Clark had changed into costume before, the Fleischers popularized the specific image of him ducking into a phone booth, which became the most iconic visual shorthand for his transformation. The Truth and Justice motto appeared in these cartoons first. It later evolved into Truth, Justice, and the American Way on the radio series in 1942. The opening narration, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, was written specifically for these cartoons by script supervisor Robert Morton. The radio series immediately adopted it. Then the 1950s TV series used it verbatim. The cartoons weren't adapting Superman lore. They were inventing it. Superman fights a never-ending battle. Number 5. They used food to create sci-fi sound effects. The sound design team got wildly creative with practical audio sources. For the electrothanasia ray used by the mad scientist in the first cartoon, they recorded the sound of a steak being cooked on a hot surface. The sizzling, crackling noise was amplified and distorted to create the deadly energy beam effect. The destruction of Krypton in Superman's origin sequence required something catastrophic. The sound designers recorded someone wrenching an apple in half with their bare hands. That organic tearing sound was then amplified to the decibel level of gunfire, creating the explosive death of an entire planet. These weren't synthesized electronic sounds. This was 1941 before modern audio technology. Every sound effect came from physical objects recorded, manipulated, and layered to create science fiction worlds from everyday sources. The creativity was necessity-driven, and the results were hauntingly effective. Number 4. The studio collapsed mid-production. By early 1941, Max and Dave Fleischer were no longer speaking to each other at all. Creative differences and financial stress had destroyed their relationship completely. They communicated by passing written notes through intermediaries. Paramount Pictures saw disaster coming. The Superman series was only 9 cartoons in when Paramount made a calculated move. They removed the Fleischer brothers from their own studio in 1942. The company was reorganized and renamed Famous Studios. Dave Fleischer moved to California. Max stayed on briefly but was effectively sidelined. Production on Superman continued under new management. The remaining 8 cartoons were technically Famous Studios productions, though they're universally known as Fleischer Superman cartoons because the series originated under that banner. The tone shifted noticeably. The first 9 cartoons focused on science fiction, mad scientists, robots, dinosaurs, meteors from space. Famous Studios changed direction toward wartime propaganda. Superman fought Nazis and Japanese saboteurs. Adolf Hitler himself appeared at the end of Jungle Drums. The visual quality also dropped. Famous Studios cut animation frames in half to save money, causing noticeable quality degradation compared to the Fleischer originals. For Truth and Justice.
Ready, Herr Kommandant.
Number 3. The voices were already famous before animation. Bud Collyer voiced Superman, but audiences didn't know his name until 1946. His identity was kept completely secret during production. Collyer was already famous as the voice of Superman on the massively popular radio series that launched in 1940. What made Collyer exceptional was his vocal transformation. He didn't just voice Superman and Clark Kent, he created 2 completely different personalities through voice alone. Clark's voice was higher, uncertain, slightly nasally. Superman's voice dropped an octave, becoming powerful and commanding. The switch happened mid-sentence during transformation sequences. Vocal acting at its finest. Joan Alexander voiced Lois Lane, also reprising her role from the radio series. She brought the same tenacity and determination that made Radio Lois beloved. Jackson Beck provided narration and voiced Perry White. He would later become the primary narrator of the radio series starting in 1943. Jack Mercer, the legendary voice of Popeye, voiced the mad scientist in the first cartoon. His villain was inspired by Boris Karloff's character in The Black Cat. The vocal cast wasn't just talented, they were already established as the definitive voices of these characters before animation ever brought them to life visually.
How is that for a story, Miss Lane?
Number 2, it was nominated for an Oscar and still lost. The first Superman cartoon received massive promotional support from Paramount. Coming attractions trailers ran in theaters nationwide, something completely unheard of for animated shorts at the time. The investment paid off. The short was a notable commercial success when it released September 26, 1941. The Academy noticed. Superman was nominated for the 1942 Academy Award for Best Animated Short Subject, recognizing its technical achievement and visual innovation. The competition that year? Disney's Linda Paw, a Pluto cartoon. Disney won. The Fleischers lost. It was one of only 5 Academy Award nominations Fleischer Studios ever received across their entire history. They never won a single Oscar despite revolutionizing animation techniques and producing some of the most influential cartoons ever made. In 1994, animation professionals voted Superman number 33 on the list of the 50 greatest cartoons of all time. That ranking came from a poll of 1,000 animation industry professionals who understood the technical and artistic significance. The recognition came 50 years too late for the Fleischers, but it cemented the cartoon's legacy forever. Number 1. These cartoons influenced everyone who came after. The impact of these 17 shorts cannot be overstated. They established animation techniques that became industry standard. Comic book artists and writers incorporated visual elements from the cartoons directly into Superman canon. Frank Miller cited them as influences. Hayao Miyazaki studied their movement and action choreography. The producers of Batman, the animated series in the 1990s, deliberately styled their show to match the noir aesthetic and epic scope of the Fleischer Superman shorts. The Tick cartoon borrowed the dramatic lighting and shadow work. Modern superhero animation owes a direct debt to these cartoons. The visual language of Superman, the flowing cape, the powerful stance, the dramatic shadows, was codified here first. Film noir aesthetics met superhero action in ways that had never existed before. Art Deco architecture combined with science fiction created a unique visual identity. The influence extended beyond animation. These shorts proved that superheroes could work in motion outside of comics. They demonstrated that audiences would pay to see costumed heroes in action. The financial success validated the entire superhero genre as commercially viable entertainment. Without these cartoons, the trajectory of superhero media would look completely different. They weren't just beautiful animation, they were proof of concept for an entire industry. So there you have it. 10 wild facts that prove the Fleischer Superman cartoons weren't just animation milestones. They were cultural touchstones that changed Superman forever, established animation techniques still used today, and proved that superheroes belonged on screen. The wildest stories aren't always in the comics. They're behind the camera. But here's something critical I didn't mention at the start. Everything you just learned about Superman, it's only half the story. Because the same studio, using the same techniques, made another iconic character just a few years earlier, and that character sparked the first animation strike in history and saved an entire town during the Great Depression. Click this video to discover the wild truth about the Popeye cartoons and how they changed animation forever. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss what's coming next. I'll see you there.